And here we are, ready for another 7 minutes on ITSPmagazine with a new short brand story. Today, I'm joined by Kurt Markley, Managing Director for the Americas at Apricorn, the leading manufacturer of software-free 256-bit AES XTS hardware encrypted USB drives, the safest place for your data at rest. Welcome, Kurt.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me today.
This is going to be a fun conversation, all rooted in data, almost all rooted in oil, because data seems to be the new oil. And with respects to the amount of data and the value it has to businesses these days, what have you seen in terms of organizations try to get a handle on managing their data safely?
Well, I don't think anybody would be surprised by the fact that ransomware and everybody's coming after your data. I don't care what kind of organization you are, government, healthcare, enterprise, people want your data. And they either want to monetize it by what the contents are, or they want to monetize it by putting it for ransom. So you're seeing a lot of that happening in the world. I think it's 14 major publicly announced ransomwares are being announced daily now. So this is a major problem that everybody faces at this point, and corporations and organizations are having to figure out how to get their hands around it. And I think the best way to look at that is how the organizations are structuring their data and how they're keeping it protected, best protected.
So traditional backup systems are one way to keep data safe, perhaps, but for redundancy purposes. But resiliency means much more than that, especially in the context of ransomware. So what are some of the challenges you see organizations facing in protecting their data?
Certainly. If you look at the amount of tools that any organization at this point is employing in order to keep their security top of mind, there's just a litany of things that they're incorporating now. And then they're also they're not utilizing educating their employees very well. So that's another thing that people really need to look at when you're trying to protect yourself from ransomware. As you mentioned, backups are certainly a center to a very safe and secure way to keep your data protected from a ransomware. If you're keeping it in an encrypted offline storage, you're much more likely to be able to get back up and running in the event of a ransomware attack, which we know will happen at some point. So if you're relying completely on the cloud, which again, Apricorn, we use the cloud, and here we are, storage manufacturers. Everybody uses the cloud. It's just ubiquitous in the world at this point. But the complete reliance on the cloud is where I think organizations are really kind of testing the limits of their security, because if you're only looking at the cloud, you're missing out on the opportunity to take that data away from the cloud and from those people who are trying to attack it.
And we can't forget that the smart, advanced, maybe not even advanced, but those attackers that really want to access or control the ransom will likely take the cloud offline and the networks offline as well, which makes it difficult to recover from. So what are some of the ways you've seen your customers kind of get a handle on this now? Where do you fit in with Apricorn?
Sure. I think we're in kind of a unique space because we do, as you mentioned earlier, we do external encrypted, software-free encrypted drives. So what that allows you to do as an organization is you want to always use the 3-2-1 rule. That's just a constant that the industry should be well aware of at this point, but a lot of people still aren't utilizing that well. 3-2-1 is having 3 copies of your data, in 2 separate spots, one of those being offsite. And ideally, those are the two different medias that you're collecting it on are encrypted. So we come into play in that because you're utilizing cloud already. There's one of your sets of data. But then if you put it onto an encrypted external drive, keep it offline, and that way, in the event of a ransomware attack, you can get your organization back up and running fairly quickly by being able to use that backup. Because let's face it, when you go through a ransomware attack, even if when paying the ransom, you look at the data and the statistics, most people aren't getting their data back. When they get it back, what they do get back, they're not getting back immediately. And then they're trying to recreate their whole system off of these bits and pieces that they've been provided through what the ransomware attack is providing. So this allows you, if you do a full backup on an encrypted external drive that is offline, you could probably be back up and running as fast as would be possible in this scenario.
And so talk to me about the process there. I mean, the whole idea is to get back up and online quickly. When we're talking about networks and things like that, not every organization tests that recovery process, right? And
Yeah,
perhaps with a hardware-based device, the speed with which the recovery can be much faster. So talk to me about that process a little bit.
Yeah, it's as simple as, everybody's got a little bit of a different system, right? You're using various OSs and that type of thing, and you're having to back up all sorts of different sets of data. So, that's one of the inherent issues with the cloud. You don't necessarily know all the stuff that's up in the cloud. You don't necessarily know what you're keeping on the network. But as long as you keep everything backed up on the drive, and it's in a much more organized manner when it's on that drive, it should be pretty easy for your IT group to rebuild the systems from it.
And the devices themselves, as we wrap up here, are 100% software free, as you noted, FIPS certified, which is no small feat.
Manufacture all of it here in San Diego, California. We do not use Chinese manufactured chips. We're very strict on how we look at this whole environment. So.
Well, that's fantastic, Kurt. And that is 7 minutes here on ITSP Magazine. Thanks, everybody.